Hello and welcome. It is Friday. You know what that means. It's Free Hands Friday, and today is Friday, June 17th. And what a joy. Super excited today because we get to spend some time with really one of my favorite stickists. And the man who brought me to 5105, which is near and dear to me. I had a passive 4 put on for a while. I had the original active 2 put back in, so it's been reunited with its original pickup, which is pretty rad. My friend, your friend, everyone's friend who loves music, JRJ.
That's me.
JRJ.
There he is. This is my son. Here's my son. He's the best. He's new in our family. He's a year and a half.
Aww.
He looks just like you.
I know.
He got his mother's hair.
Anyway, okay, that's your cameo, kid.
Okay. What's the dog's
You know,
name?
there's a movie coming out called Wiener.
I'll take him to it.
Yeah, it's about a wiener dog. I think it's called Wiener. Maybe that's a different one, but it's about a wiener dog. It's pretty funny. I saw it. I saw the preview.
Is it animated?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's an actual wiener dog.
Right on.
Gosh,
Hey, and
gosh,
Boaz is here, which makes this an international event.
Is he a Dachshund? JRJ?
What?
Oh.
5237. I'm sorry, I had to look.
Is your doggy a Dachshund?
What?
No?
No, he doesn't.
Is
What
he
do
a
you-
Dachshund? Dachshund, a wiener dog.
You know, if you are from Asia, or specifically Japan, or if you meet somebody who has Japanese as their first language, ask them to say dachshund, and they'll say dachshund. Dachshund.
That would be my wife.
But if
She's
you
from
want,
Kyoto.
if you want to have more fun, ask them to say hippopotamus, because then they'll say hippopotamus. No fooling.
Yeah, I have a long list of Japanese mispronunciations.
Really?
All right.
I'm not the only one.
All right, JRJ-san. Here we go. Here we go. Because, actually, we could talk about dachshunds. It doesn't really matter.
Come on,
I don't know
get
if you-
serious, people.
Here, check this out. I wonder if you can see this. I'm actually going to show you outside on my yard. You can see my dog. There she is. That's Marley.
Optical illusion. Is it standing or is it laying?
Right.
Can you
Is
see that?
it black or is it white, right?
It sort of looks squashed.
Wait,
Maybe it's the perspective.
hippopotamus. Hippopotamus.
She she is enjoying some sunlight. So okay, so for reals, JRJ, and I'll maybe tell some stories in a little bit about how we met and all the kind of fun we had back in 2012 at the Tom G and Bob Culbertson event out in Miracosta. But to start with, JRJ, my first question to you is this, and that is that there's not a lot of instruments that I feel in the time that I've known you and the way that you play music and the range of instruments that you play, music comes very naturally to you. So my first question is to you, your first musical experience, your first moment when you realized music was something special. What was that moment?
Well, there were two moments. I can remember them exactly. One was I was a little kid and I was sitting outside and my sister had a transistor radio, a little tiny, it wasn't, 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. They were really small. And there was it was probably like Diana Ross or something. And her voice was so beautiful that I was just stunned by it. I was captivated. And, I had never been exposed to any popular music, anything like that. I was just a really little kid, but I heard that, and it was like I could see dimensions inside of that little box through that voice of what the person was singing about. And
what was the song? Do you remember the song, or?
I hate to think it's that one about the banana, but it wasn't that. It was something a little more romantic.
Okay.
So,
Keep Me Hanging On?
it could be.
That was a good one. That was a
And what?
that was
So
a good
so
one.
and that kind of. So how old were you?
Oh, like, it was in the early 60s, 3,
Okay.
4.
Okay. So
Pretty
really,
young.
really young.
Yeah.
And it was something that was just on the radio, or the parents had a record or something.
Right, and so then that next experience was, my mom had a piano, and this actually gets into a lot of stories, but I never knew this until years later. She was actually, I don't know, quite high up there in these piano competitions when she was young, in the Midwest somewhere, and she, walked out on stage, and supposedly the story goes it was between her and one other person. And she got on stage and she got in front of the piano and then she said, "I can't do this," and walked away.
Ah!
Oh.
She
Wow.
left. And even though
Wow.
there was a piano, even though there was Chopin, even though there was all this stuff, there was never any playing. She hardly ever played it. And I don't know. I was cursed by that, because I felt whenever I went on stage that I had to go on, or if anybody ever asked me to play for them, I had to play for them. Otherwise, I would fall under the spell of personal doubt, self-doubt, which, she must have played for years and then gave it all up in one instant.
Wow. Just like
Fight the fear.
it happens, right? I mean, I remember I'm like a huge fan of XTC, and at some point I remember Andy Partridge just decided no more touring. Like no more playing live, and I think Steely Dan had that kind of epiphany, and the Beatles did that as well. But just to stop playing music altogether is a pretty heavy moment.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That was I kind of segued, and now we're segueing again. The piano was where the other thing happened, because I could sit at this thing. My mom was the pianist, but I played that thing all the time, and didn't play very well, but I was having a lot of fun. And to my mother's credit, I believe she never had me take any lessons.
Ah,
She just let me play, just explore.
wow.
I think that she knew somehow, okay, if this kid is a musician, he'll find his own way. But if I start making him play lessons and scales and all these things, then that's going to affect him. And, I always kind of loved her even for that, even though it wasn't, necessarily spoken. It seemed to be unspoken.
So music wasn't it wasn't a practice so much as it was a release, right? Like it was more it filled a different need. It wasn't like this book smart thing that you needed to accomplish. It was these feelings that you needed to like emote or feel.
It was just fun. I mean, I mean, we can get into it if you want. I have this whole thesis about music, but I've always been, real intuitive. Could play things just on any instrument, or could make sound. I wasn't looking at it like I'm playing. I'm going to play this piece of music. I'm going to explore sound, but it would activate my imagination. And so, in doing that, any instrument was fun. Even if my mom had an old mandolin that supposedly my grandmother used to play. So the music lineage is in my mother's side. And, I would get that mandolin out. It was like the strings were rusty and it was old. I would try and tune that thing, but it was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fun story, because like when I see you're playing, there's not a lot of looking at the fretboard. It's really just like you're just playing what you're feeling. And I mean, it's kind of a generalization, but like, and the one that I saw most recently was that video that I mentioned was the pear and leaf. What was it? The
Pear blossom and leaf pie.
Yeah, that's a great video. It was really fun to watch, and I just kind of chanced upon it on your G Plus account. So, can you say it one more time? Is it pear blossom and leaf pie?
Pear blossom and leaf pie.
Yeah, that's a cool YouTube search.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those things where I was JRJ, and there was nobody else. I used to be John R. Johnson, and it was just a terrible musician's name. But I changed it to JRJ, and there was only me and the, JRJ Plumbing. So it was great, but then all of a sudden there was JRJ this and JRJ that and JRJ Music Productions and JRJ Rap and all this stuff. So I decided to take my middle name, JRJ Roush. That's how that happened, so that it would be there and no one would compete with it. But Pear Blossom and Leaf Pie was an attempt to say something that no one else would say. But the only thing is that no one ever thinks of pear blossoms and leaf pies. No one ever writes that in. There's no hashtag in front of it. It doesn't have more, associative power than, I don't know, Chapman stick, But
Right.
Told you I could talk a blue streak. That stick that I played that on was Greg Howard's old stick.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
The travels of a Chapman stick. Like where are they now? So once upon a time, this stick, October of 2006, was born into the world, and this is number 5101. And so here's so JRJ, we're going to talk a lot about you. So we're going to talk a little bit about this Chapman stick. Right? Dual flaps, X fret, 36-inch scale. What is it? Black hip shots, 4-position. This one has a lapdog. It's got an active 2, metal bridge, all the amenities of a 21st century Chapman stick. JRJ and I started talking. We were friends on the Stickist, and I'd only been on the Stickist for a couple months, whatever it was. And I had just recently purchased a Paduke 12-string. And it had black linear inlays, and I love the term that JRJ used. It was the doppelganger. And the only thing that was different was that the one that I had, which was a 12-string, had black linear inlays. And so, we talked about it, and JRJ, I hope you won't mind me kind of putting you on the spot. But we were talking about it, and then the whole thing with money came up and the exchange, and JRJ was kind of like, it feels kind of heavy. You were like, I could tell you were a little bit concerned. You're like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, let's, right. We just met each other because we were going to meet up at this 2012 event with Bob Culbertson and Tom G, which was where the railboard was first introduced. Dan, and you were there.
I was shooting.
And so then we met each other, and there was hugs and the usual kind of Chapman stick love that goes on when two stick players meet, and then there was 10 more stick players, and everyone's freaking out. And then we see the instruments, and we're both like, huh, wow. And then all that heaviness kind of disappeared, and we looked at it, and I was like, look, can we just trade for a night, and see how we feel? And of course, this one had a, and that's when I switched to medium gauge too, JRJ. You turned me onto that, going from the light strings, which is what I was using, and then yours had medium gauge on it. I think it was matched reciprocal. And so that was something new, is medium gauge, which I'm a huge fan of now, and I never did switch back after that. So it ended up that we came back the next day, and we didn't really, I don't even know that we talked about it. We might have talked about it on the phone, but it was just kind of like everything was cool. And JRJ made a comment about how I only traded it because I wanted a soft shell bag. Because I was so tired of carrying around this huge, what is it, AA, flight approved case, and the 12-string.
The big fiberglass thing.
Right.
Not even one of those cool, great anvil cases. It's one of those fiberglass, Yeah, I had to give that up.
But it was so great because it was just a great kind of introduction, and then I'm going to kind of add to that story. So I was with Stephen LeBeau, who we're very tight now. So Stephen and I were talking, and I went up to go to Seattle, and my plans fell through with Randy Clare, and so I needed a place to stay in Seattle. And I called up Steven, and I was like, hey, man, I know, I just know you from the Stickist, but can I live with you for 3 days? And he's like, yeah, sure, come up here, we'll have coffee. It was great. So I hung out with him, and we were talking, and it was well into the evening, right? We picked up a bottle of wine, and we're making food and hanging out and relaxing, and then, I said, oh, yeah, I traded with this guy, JRJ, and he's like, wait, JRJ? He's like, yeah, I got both my sticks from JRJ. I was like, we both got our instruments from the same guy. That's how small this community is. So it was crazy how, these two guys, 2 different states, 2 different instruments, 2 different worlds, total chance, got their instrument from the same person and that was you.
How does that happen?
Love that
Just
story.
because I'm a fanatic, that's why. But you know, the stick that he got, the graphite, if you remember the graphite stick that he got,
yeah.
which was in, I don't know, dual bass reciprocal, some, you know, unusual tuning, which I really loved there for a while. But I got that because I traded a NS to somebody straight across from the forum. And, you know, I mean, he just wanted an NS. He wanted to see what it was like. He was going to trade this stick straight across for it. And I loved that thing, but, you know, realized that I just wasn't a 10-string player. And I nurtured Stephen for over a year, where periodically he would contact me and say, yeah, I really want a stick. Can I come play one? And then I would sit with him in my office for an hour while he, you know, noodled. And, you know, he didn't need any lessons. He was just like, as soon as he was on the stick, he was like playing. He's really like a pretty talented.
So Stephen was there in Santa Cruz?
He lived in San Jose or Sunnyvale or something like that.
Okay, so he moved up to Seattle.
Yeah, and he was going to be, see, Dean Kobayashi and myself, and then, you know, Grantee,
Good people.
And then Diana Amar, okay, yeah, from we started our own stick circle, the Bay Area Stick Circle.
That's
but
right.
It wasn't big enough, so we started a larger thing called Solo Utopia. And that's, you know, artists, musicians, sculptors, etymologists, all kinds of people get together and, you know, play for each other. And so Stefan was going to be part of that. And I was looking forward to having him play, but he got a job, went to Seattle, haven't seen him since.
Yeah, well, he's up there. He's got a girl. He's fallen in love, and they're good together. And plays a lot of music. He's doing a lot of synthy analog stuff now, or digital stuff as well. I mean, he's big into like the sound creation kind of thing. So that's kind of fun to see how you got to know him and got to meet him. I like our musical tastes are very much aligned, like Cheap Trick and Devo, and I think maybe Elvis Costello. I think he's a fan of that kind of singer-songwriting stuff.
He's got a real pop sensibility.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, I go progressive rock, jazz, you know, my own world. I'm not, you know, I don't know, in any particular area that I'm trying to.
Yeah. So let me kind of ask Boaz a question here, like, because we haven't heard too much from you. Where did you first hear about the stick, and how did you get your first stick?
Well, it's a well-known story here in the stick community. If you don't remember.
Was it? Tell me again.
I went to England, I went to Leicester Square, and suddenly I heard such a good music. I thought there was a band playing, and there was this guy called Elia Levy.
Oh, yeah.
And I was amazed. It's one guy band. I was standing there with two speakers. One side had the bass, one side had the melody, and I was amazed. And I went back to the hotel. I haven't talked to him. Went back to the hotel. I gotta go back again. I gotta buy his CDs. I gotta know what this instrument is all about. And I went the next day. Luckily, he was there again, and I had the chance to talk to him a bit. Bought all his CDs, and the rest is history.
Nice.
About a year later, I ordered a stick. It was 2002 or something, 2001. Yeah, that's it.
I think Elia used to play here in Santa Monica at the 3rd Street Promenade quite often, and now he's living in Nuremberg, in Germany.
He was up in Topanga. He lived up in Topanga for a while, and I missed him, and I didn't realize what like an international like Chapman stick star he was. I was like, oh, he's always lived in Topanga, and I just never knew about it. Right.
I tried to get him to go to Mallorca, the stick camp last year, but it didn't happen, unfortunately.
Greg!
Hello!
I've got to talk to this guy.
All right.
But we're going to finish Free Hands Friday first. I hope he understands.
Get him online. Let's hear it.
Here.
He's probably doing a lesson or something like, you know.
Come on, he wants to talk with us. Boaz, you got your stick in 2001?
Yeah, well, I bought it, and then I was trying a bit playing, and then it was. I left it for quite a while, and lately I got back to it after last year's Mallorca meeting. So
That was
ever
so much
since,
fun.
yeah,
It's the same year. The same year that I got my stick. It's 2001.
I think it was 2001 or something. I was get confused between the year I got the stick and the serial number.
I know, for me, I know it was 2001 because of 9/11, and I got it like on 9/12.
I think I got my stick number is 2001, and I think I got the stick about 2002 maybe.
Yeah, 15 years. It's a good amount of time to be playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard, now JRJ, have you heard his version of Sound of Silence?
Is
Oh,
it
yeah.
in the forum?
On
It's
Stickist.
out there. Yeah, it's out there.
I
It's really
probably
good, though. It's a song that, like, I think it's a really good song for stickists to know. It's one of these songs, like, I always felt like Joy of Man's Desiring is a great song to learn, and that was in the Free Hands book, and I always remembered that, and I always thought to myself, this is a really good song to learn. Hey, can I do a quick digression here? Have any of you guys had a Tim Tam before?
Yeah.
You love those.
Seriously, have you had one? Oh, that's right. You went out to stick camp and probably had them, right?
No.
No. Okay.
What is
Well,
it?
it's a chocolate cookie. It's actually melting in my hands right now. It's like, but there's a way to eat the Tim Tam, and I've talked about this on the Stickist, and I'm going to do this because all our Australian Stickists will be like, "Oh yeah, good on you." Like they'll see, because this is the way to eat a Tim Tam. So in case you haven't noticed, you have to have it with coffee or some sort of hot beverage.
I got the
Does it have
coffee.
anything to do with stick technique?
It's a technical thing, so stick players can relate to it. Here's what you do: you bite off the corner right here. You bite off the corner right here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to suck the coffee through the cookie, and then the cookie is going to disintegrate, and I'm going to eat it. So you can't really see it. Right there. Well,
Definitely use headphones while doing this.
I can't put into words just how delicious it is, but that's the way you eat a Tim Tam. And
So it's like a straw.
it's exactly. The thing is that, oh, it's so good. It's a whole different experience because the cookie melts in that instant when you suck the coffee through it. Now you can do this with like a chocolate Girl Scouts cookie, like one of those Thin Mints, and you'll see the comments. I'm going to state in the comments that we did a Tim Tam Slam on the session, and people are going to be like, "Oh, really? Did you do it right?" You know. So, anyways, I've been
You
wanting
are
to.
aware that it's going to be on Friends Friday forever, right?
Oh man.
You know, Don Schiff invented the coffee straw. I mean, got to get Don in there. He should know about it.
The coffee straw?
Yeah.
Really? With what?
You didn't know that?
What does he
No.
use?
Any old straw will do it.
Oh.
It's the name. It's the name that counts. That's where the money is.
So okay, so let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about Dawn, because like when you were down here for Free Hands Academy 2013, like you and Dawn, like you, I think you had your private lesson with Dawn, but you guys were kind of tight, right?
Don is the man to me. I mean, he's, you know, I consider him my stick teacher. And, you know, I've hung out with all those guys, but I bonded in a way with Don that I, you know, don't know that I could bond with any of the other kind of luminaries.
You donned. We call it donding.
Yeah, so you know what I mean?
It's a donned. It's like a brotherly donned.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you look at it objectively, at least with me, there's a much different approach that he takes, and part of that approach, I mean, I think I've written on Stickus about this, but you know, he said I played for him, and he said, "You just keep doing that, and you'll be fine." And that was my lesson. Then we just talked about. I mean, I've known Don for more than 30 years. I met Don in LA in 1983, and I don't know if you know anything about Desert Sun,
No.
the band that he was in.
No.
If you've read his blogs, what's the guy's name?
I've heard of the rocket scientists.
Oh no, this is way, way, way before the rocket scientists.
And Margaret time.
It was actually, if you go into Freehands and you see the picture of Don and he's got his pedal board, that really funky pedal board.
Getting it right now.
He played with Elvis.
Yeah.
He's
got lots of, Don's blogs are really fun to read, and you can read about some of this, stuff in his blogs.
Have you visited him up in his new place in Napa?
No, but that's within striking distance.
No, I was thinking, sure.
So, but anyway, so I met Don, through these people, Brooks Poston and Jane Boltonhouse, in 1983, I guess. And he had that, if you can see it. Make a noise.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have the dog, but he had that pedal board.
Wow.
Nice. Mutron for the win.
There it is.
Handsome guy.
Yeah, Don is a king of the elves. He's a leprechaun.
King of the donut elves.
That's right.
He loves it.
That's cool, because that's one more thing that I can relate with you, because Don was my first teacher. So right around 1990, about 1988, 1889, I got sick. 1990, I took a lessons with him, and I was doing it once or twice a month. And when you said, just do that and you'll be fine, it's kind of like, wow, that's probably the same thing he said to me, and it felt the same kind of way, where it was just so reassuring, and I was like, well, Don thinks I'm going in the right direction, so I am going to keep doing that.
Well, it was like that. It was like, try to make your hand a little bigger.
Mm.
So it's not like yeah, good job. But the next lesson, I came in. I didn't see him for years, and I came in, and I guess this was at the Freehands thing, that 2013. And I said, okay, Don, I want to show you. I want to play this new stuff for you. I want you to see it. And I was all excited about it. And he didn't, really care that much. He just started to play. And I said, no, Don, listen. Let's, and so then he'd listen for a second, and then he'd start to play. And I realized that what the new lesson was, don't talk, play. And so we just played and played and played and played, and it was fantastic. And I don't know. I've always wanted to make an album with Don. Just get some recording equipment and just play, and then edit it down to the best parts. Because if you can play one thing, he can play 10 things around it, and it's really fun to play with someone that good.
I recall, and Dan, I'd love to get a story on Don from you. I recall seeing there was a show with Emmett, Don, and Greg back in about 2012, and Don was playing the NS, and he had the big pedal board, full MIDI rig, and everything. And he's playing the NS, and sometimes he'd do this thing where he'd play uncrossed, and then sometimes he'd have both hands on the melody while he was playing, and he'd be looping, and then other times he'd be hitting these two hands on the bass line. He'd be doing that, and then sometimes he'd have this ring that he was using as a slide while he was holding rhythms in the left hand. And then he was using slide on the bass side, and I really had no idea what was going to come. And then he would sing, and then it was then he's singing, and he's looping, and he's playing with a slide, and he's got both hands on both sides, and it's MIDI, and it's freaking out, and I was I have literally no idea what comes next. He's going to do a backflip, right? I have no idea, what's going to, right? He's going to, turn water into wine. I have no idea what comes next with Don Schiff. He was playing the instrument in so many different ways that I didn't even know, I know it was loud. And so it kind of was like an eye opener for me with the NS, and the way it can be used. And he's like the perfect guy for the job for the NS, like to be that kind of
never bonded with the NS?
I tried, actually. So FHA 2013 was definitely, we had like 5 NS players. We had you, and I think Randy had his NS. Dean was down there. And then we had, Nathan wasn't there that year. I think we had 4 NS players that year. I don't know if Gary was there for that year, but he wasn't. But I've always wanted an NS. I mean, always. I mean, I think every stick player does. That's a bassist. They're like, why didn't I get an NS? You know, like.
I wish I had mine with me because I would show you this thing that I figured out, which is basically the NS tuned in DAD-GAD. And you can just do amazing stuff with it, you know, tuned that way.
Do you use the open? Do you lock it down then at the neck there? Or?
You know, I try to get it. It's like a little bit of an angle, so that I mean, you can't totally control this, but you probably could if you had one of Emmett's pipe cleaners, you know, to put a little extra, you know, damper in there. But you know, get the bass a little bit more toned down, and then let the other strings open. But I look at it as a guitar. And play it, you know, guitar tapping technique. The stick is completely different. Completely. And
two different things.
I think that, you know, it almost should be like a rule that if someone wants to get the stick, they should get a stick. Just a 10-string. Learn how to play that, and then get the NS. Because if you get the NS first, you're going to never want to play the stick. It's just going to be the NS. You're never going to want to go through this kind of initiation that the stick needs to go through. But if you do go through that, then the NS opens up in ways that I don't think it can if you only have, you know, guitar influence.
Right. And so now someone that's done that that I'm dying to have on a Freehands Friday is Russell Keating. So Russell Keating moved from a Chapman stick to the NS, and he's doing all kinds of amazing things with it. In fact, when I was at Stick Enterprises, like however many months ago, and I mentioned it to Gary, you know, Gary Jubilian, who does all this NS work. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, have you seen Russell's like schematics? So like, he had this way, like it was just a way of getting like a different pickup configuration, and so Russell's really into it. And it's kind of one of those stories where, like, came first, the stick and NS, you know, different for everyone. Like Brett Bottomley, he's had like 2 or 3 like NSs, I think. Sold them all, you know, just like he's a stick player. So it just kind of varies. It's just like, what are you into? And
Russell is interesting in you know, he built his own instrument.
That's right.
That kind of like came and went, you know, like he did that.
I recall that. Yeah.
You know how hard that is?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, to make it sound, you know, reasonably good.
You must have some tools.
Yeah. A few screwdrivers and a little saw. But, you know, you've got to hand it to Emmett. I don't know, Steve was saying a shout out to Emmett. I didn't write this, but, you know, in that Emmett appreciation file, that he can build these instruments. And if you just look at them, they're so amazing. The technology, the precision, they're beautiful. They're beautiful in their, you know, simplicity. But he can play, too. And I've known, you know, quite a few luthiers. Very few can actually build and play. And, you know, Emmett can do that.
Well, that's why he made the instrument in the first place, to play. In fact, I was thinking about, after I read Jim Riley's book, he brought me back to the time between 1969 and 1974, there was only one stick player in the world, and that was him. And so it was like there was no pressure on him to produce anything. It was just him and the instrument and playing. And playing before a lot of audiences, going to New York, traveling, blowing people's minds when they saw him. But of course, hearing it is a lot different than seeing it. And it's just that time, it's pretty interesting that there was only one guy doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he liked that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was freedom for him. I mean, that was free hands, you know. And he invented that. Then all of a sudden, he was convinced that he should manufacture them. and the Pandora's box was opened.
Wasn't it Joe Zawinul who bought the first or second stick from him after seeing him in New York?
I think he brought the first 2 sticks, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
I know that the first production run would have been in 1974, and I believe there were 6 Chapman sticks that were made, and I believe that Zawinul got at least one of those, if not the first or second or third, something like that.
Yeah. And then I can't remember the guy's name. Who was the great guy who was at Freehands 2013?
Well, there was Greg and Kevin and.
No, but I mean in relation to Joe Zawinul.
Oh, Alfonso Johnson.
Alfonso
so Johnson.
You've got to think that, even though Joe Zawinul got it, he said, all right, here. Like that, that's where that went.
No, no, it was not the same stick. He was inspired. I don't even know, when I interviewed Al and asked him how he learned about the stick, and it was not from Joe Zawinul, surprisingly.
That's right.
Stumbled on Emmett playing at a club or something and walked in and was blown away.
That was State of the Stick 2013. We were there for that, JRJ. We were there for that story. And this is when you had raised a question too about how you were at a looping festival, but Alfonso told the story about how he walked by this like Indian restaurant or this whatever it was, this Italian restaurant or whatever it was, and he heard this music coming and he ducked in there to see it, and it's out there. If you do a search on State of the Stick 2013, there's we interview Alfonso kind of second to last, and that's a fun story. And I would have thought that Zawinul would have been the guy that turned him on, but Alfonso Johnson was just in the right place at the right time, out there in the San Fernando Valley, I think, or maybe it was like North Hollywood or something like that.
Well, he wasn't playing the stick in Weather Report, I don't think. I think he was just playing bass in Weather Report. And maybe he had left Weather Report before he got the stick. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't recall.
I'd have to ask him.
Well, having Alfonso at that stick gathering was really a highlight to me, especially since he was such a heartfelt guy. I mean, you could really, you could just sit with him and you could just be right there. It was almost like you didn't even need to talk about anything. You could just feel like this good energy.
It's really funny because I was just looking at some of that footage yesterday, and I was watching Alfonso give his lessons in the top room there, in the whatever that room is called.
Arbitman.
Yeah, and you and Emmett were there doing his lesson, and I have this footage of you guys looking at each other going, yeah, wow, this is fun. And Alfonso's doing this pretty cool rhythmic lesson, and everybody's getting into it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a fun moment. He also had a really good a lesson that I thought was a great exercise for people who are playing in the band together, and that was he had a whole bunch of tennis balls, and you'd throw the ball to your friend that was sitting near you, and then they'd throw it back to you, and then you started doing, you started throwing, like you had like 1 or even 2 tennis balls, and then you'd throw it to the person next to you, and it was like that was like this rhythm that you were sharing with somebody, but with the tennis ball, it was a different kind of relationship with that rhythm, and so you have to time the bounce. You have to see, how hard are you going to throw it, and then when you get ready to catch it, you have to kind of watch for what the other person is doing, and it's a way of kind of listening with your hands, and it was a really cool exercise, and I really enjoyed it, and I got a lot out of that. And I remember there's this, we're in the downstairs room, and everyone's throwing tennis balls around, and everyone's kind of giggling, and it was just kind of a silly, fun moment. I remember that.
Wow. Al is just announced on Facebook that he's going to be playing his next concert in Venezuela.
Wow.
Yeah. With all the turmoil that's going on there, it's a pretty interesting choice.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't spoken with him recently, but I know that he was working on an album. He had like a vocalist that he was working with.
I think what I was talking about was, I guess it has to do with character. and you know, beingness, like a person has a thing that you can feel around them, and then their actions are subsequent to that. And you know, Emmett is an example of it in a different way. I went to pick up a stick once, I mean, a bunch of years ago, but you know, at Emmett's house, and Emmett invited me up to the little loft area where his little office is, and you know, it's kind of, I don't know, almost an octagon or something with these windows and stuff. But Emmett was completely disarming. There was no ego or stuff there. It was just. It turned into fun where we were actually like looking in his drawers and getting out like pipe cleaners and you know old things and you know experimenting with weird sounds on the instrument. I mean, Emmett, it was playtime, and I really just appreciated that so much that there was no like I'm Emmett Chapman, the great designer, and it was like when he said he had the stick and he said, well, do you want to play it or do you want me to play it? I mean, like like christening it. That's like what you're looking at. And I wanted
one of us has to play it.
Yeah, I wanted him to do it because I believe that people put their energy into the instruments, and so the more of that I could get, from Emmett. I mean, I still have the pipe cleaner that he gave me for extra muting.
That's cool because I feel that same way with your instrument, and I kind of felt that way with like Steven, like it has this kind of JRJ energy to it. And even if there's no such thing as that, like still in my own mind, like I feel that way, and that's fine. That's good enough for me. Like it just feels right. Like I got it from this guy. I like this guy. Like the way this guy plays. Good enough, right? We don't need to get like into the stars about it. Although I'm not saying, or I'm sounding a little cynical as I'm saying that, but that's not my intention. And that is that I have JRJ's stick right here, and I play it every freaking day. And it sounds like I love the sound of it. Like I can't even put it into words. It just feels right. So that's fun to hear because I mean, I can totally relate to that story.
Passing
jeans right here, and I play it every day too.
Yeah, boy, come on. What's the number on that one? I can't remember. What is it?
Rails.
I can't remember either. Wait.
62. No, I think it was
It's 5237.
5237. Okay. Yeah, and mine was 5105.
But I traded the stick with Gene. There was a little issue about money, but I ponied up. Okay, when it came down to it, it wasn't a straight across trade because this one's got 2 more strings on it. Come on. So
there's a longer wait. They're harder to get. You said $300 and I said $200, and you said you'd get me a steak dinner if I came to Santa Cruz.
Well, you never come.
Well, that was cool. That was cool that you said you'd do that.
But
I didn't shake you down though. Did I shake you down? Was I like shaking you down?
No, it was fair.
Okay, it was fair.
I was like not, trying to pay extra money for it. I was trying to get the best deal I could. But wait, there's a secret about this stick, and I can't find it. I don't know if I could show it anyway, but I was like touching it. Now I can't find it. Somewhere, and Gene never said anything. He never said, this stick is worth a lot more money because Emmett signed it. He never said that.
Back of the headstock.
Oh, it's up here?
Yeah.
I can't find it.
EHC, baby.
It's because I can't.
Yeah, he dremeled it in there.
Yeah, there it is. EHC.
Yep. Collector's
so
91?
Edition. 91?
No, it would have been EHC. Oh, yeah. It would have been like 6 something or other. It would have been like 6-1, I think, which is when he finished the work on it. So
it's EHC 611.
611. Okay, so that's when he did the work on it, and and like, if I could give that to anyone, it would be to you, JRJ. Like that's the irony. It's like you can give Emmett Chapman signature to anyone. I'd be like, oh, give it to JRJ. Right?
But you never said anything. I had to call you like 6 months later or a year later and say, do you know this stick has Emmett's, like, he signed it? Emmett doesn't do that. He does it on every NS. but not, on a stick it's like a personal thing.
Right. Well, there's what, like 67? There's about 6,700 sticks in the world. There's about 300, I think about 320, maybe 350 NS sticks in the world now. So,
yeah.
For whatever it's worth.
Well,
so,
go ahead.
Well, I'm really enjoying this train of thought. I don't want to derail it, but I do have more questions for you.
We'll just train it up somewhere else.
Okay. So then the other story or the question that I have, and we're kind of getting close to time. I hate to say it, but like we should consider like maybe 5 or 10 more minutes. One thing that I wanted to ask you that I always ask every stick player usually on these sessions is, for someone who's just started on this instrument that's like struggling, or with someone that's excited that's like ordered an instrument, like there's this cat JSB out there, he's just ordered one and he's waiting for it. What advice do you have for like a guitarist or a bassist, flute player, anyone, an instrumentalist that's moving to the Chapman stick? Like if I had known this, this is what I would tell somebody. What would you say to someone that was just coming to the Chapman stick?
I'll say what my friend Joe Minichetti, who's a pretty accomplished musician here in Santa Cruz. He started a band called Isle of Skye, ended up playing at the Monterey Jazz Festival. But I told him, I'm really thinking about getting a Chapman stick. And he said, well, get it now, because it's going to take you 10 years to learn how to play it.
Wow.
So, the thing is, it's a serious
endeavor.
Not so much because of the money, but you're going to want to put time into it. So the idea of getting a stick had better translate into fun, because if it doesn't, it's going to end up on eBay. And I always found it to be like totally fun, absolutely fun. Every time I pick it up, I've learned something new. I get something new. I get a new idea, and you have to be really good to be able to get it to play music right, because string needs to be hit just exactly the right way.
Right. Right. So have fun.
Have fun.
Have fun.
Have fun and get one soon.
Get one soon. But there's another thing that I've really learned, which is so weird. When you play, if you can do this thing with your stomach, your solar plexus. So you're playing along, and then you pull your solar plexus up, and then you play along the feeling of the solar plexus. It's a weird thing, but all of a sudden something happens where it's like you can concentrate in that with that little extra amount that you need to keep the notes or to get the notes to that precision.
Solar plexus?
Solar plexus.
Solar energy.
So it's that's why Don didn't tell me that, but I always say that Don teaches the Zen stick approach. So play from your. Greg gets into this stuff. Play from the center of your being.
Yeah, I've always felt like play with passion. Like play something that you care about. Like I tried learning songs I didn't really like. Like some people like, hey, play this song, and I learned it. Like I got lucky with a couple, like Landslide's a great song. Somebody suggested that, and I learned it. And then somebody suggested like Garbage, a song called "Stupid Girl," and I never played it again after I did as a song of the week. And I was like, I don't like that song. It doesn't speak to me the way like something does like "1,000 Years" by Christina Perri. I don't know any of her other songs, but like that song is good. Like that song in particular is really good. So another question, and I'm digressing, and I usually save that question for last. And actually, I want to make sure that Boaz and Dan don't have other questions, but I do want to ask you about your album, because I know you've got a couple of them. And actually, I do want to ask you about the tag at some point. Maybe we don't have to do that during the session, but I was kind of curious to know what you thought about the tag. But my first question to you is, going up Dragon Mountain, talk to me about that album for a little bit.
The album is completely, not completely composed, but fundamentally composed with a Gibson Echoplex. So that all the little every foundation was a loop that then I recorded into my computer and then built it off of that. So, not only is it, it's a multi-instrumentalist album, but the stick is in there, but it's a looping album as well, if you're into the looping scene. Which
I didn't really I didn't pick that up that it was a looping album.
Well, I thought that was, one of the, if there was anything brilliant about it, is that no, you don't notice that it's, it's all based on loops, but loops are the foundation of it. So it's a great way to practice if you have a Boss loop station that have memory in them, and you get an idea. Just keep that idea. Just forget about it. This is like what I've done with the recent thing that happened, because I posted that video on Stickist. Was Emmett said, your medium is video or something like that. So I said, well, I guess that means that I better make videos. So I started doing it, and I absolutely hated it because, I mean, look at me, I look so weird, to myself. But so I realized the solution is get the person out of the way and just play, the hands, just play free hands, just play, and that just opened up this thing where I'm just making videos, like crazy. So what I noticed from doing that is that you do things that you don't know that you're doing, that you don't notice unless you see it objectively. And once you see it objectively, then you go, wait a second, that is a really good idea. I need to emphasize this and de-emphasize, something else that I'm doing, some mistake that I'm making. So, the looping machine and the video, to be able to see what you're doing. And just make videos and loops and throw them away. Don't worry about only keep the ones that are, the gems, but that it's a disposable medium is, I don't know, not emphasized enough.
Yeah, I agree with you. In that having structured and unstructured time for me is kind of how I equate that. And that is like, now it's time to learn something, and it's important to do that. And I'm going to read, and I'm going to look at music, and I'm going to study a song that I like and figure out why it sounds that way. This melody against that chord, this change against that change. And then there's other times, which is kind of like unlocking that JRJ mode, where it's just like the third eye opens up, and then you're just like, oh, I can play whatever I want and explore. And someone who I think did a fun, put out kind of like a project there on the Stickers was Daniel Marks, which was Song in a Day, which is just just learn this song, do it in one day, and then play it, and just however far you get is however far you get, and that's like a good kind of exercise. Now this is something a little bit different from what you're saying, JRJ, but kind of similar in that they were just saying, just video it, just do it, go ahead and do it, and see. And what was it? I'm dropping stick names. Mike Kemp comes out and did Hit the Road Jack. Did you see this?
No.
Yeah, I've seen.
Did you see that, Boaz?
Yeah.
Did you see? So you saw the video, Boaz?
Yeah.
It was.
So,
it was wicked good. Mike Kemp learned Hit the Road Jack, sang it, and performed it all in a day, and it was just amazing to see. There might have been he missed one note, if that, and just totally killed it. And then other people started kind of chiming in with their own kind of things, and it was just this great way to use video to look back on, because when I hear a song that I play on the Chapman stick, I'm like, oh yeah, there's that change, or there's that bridge that I kind of fake it, and I really need to learn that. I need to figure out how to hit that augmented 7 or something like that. But that temporary medium you're talking about, I can totally relate to, and come back to it, right?
How did you get the idea from me about, you said, opening the third eye? Now, are you just teasing me, or because if you got that idea from me somehow, then I'm doing my job, because to me that's what it's all about.
You're doing your job. You're just doing your job, man. You're I know why you're here. Right? I know because I'm living proof, right? I've got your frickin' stick sitting right there, right?
And my album.
And the album, yeah. So going back to the album, looping album, it's not a big stick album. It's not tap 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 tap. It wasn't and that's kind of what I was expecting to hear. It's here's a stickist, he's put out an album, but it wasn't like that at all. It was much more subtle. And what I also liked about that album wasn't here's the verse, and then here's the part you sing along with in the shower, and then here's the solo, and then here's kind of the fade. It wasn't like that at all. It was, and then there was a lot of similar parts, songs that were kind of similar towards kind of like the 2/3 of the way into the album. There was like definitely things that it felt like some rhythms or some like parts had been kind of recycled or reused in a certain way. And that's when you said it was looping, I'm like, now I know why. And it really did feel like I was going up the side of a mountain, like there was like this canopy hanging above me, and that maybe I had to kind of watch my back for like the howling monkeys or whatever it was that like might want to try to like, it's like, was I being followed or something like that? And it was just this really cool adventure album, and it wasn't overwhelming, and it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't just like, look at me tap, and there's lots of horns. Now, did you play flute, or do you know someone who plays flute?
I do have. I've got a whole collection of flutes. I probably have 20 little flutes that I've collected, but just one, real kind of classical flute. But flutes and horns and all those instruments are difficult to play because of the embouchure. So the way I get around that is the wind controller.
So,
so
you had a wind controller.
Yeah, a WX7 to now I stepped up to an EWI 4000. And just bypass. I mean, I hate to say it, bypass the Rolands, get the EWI. Those things are are fantastic.
How much does something like that cost, if you don't mind me asking?
I think that they're about 800.
Okay, under 1,000.
Yeah, you
all right.
Cheaper used.
Okay, so because like on the album, it's like it feels like Weather Report because it's got this kind of freedom to it, and I think that you use a soprano sax in some of it, but other ones are these really like deep, heavy, breathy, kind of shakurachi kind of sounding flutes, and then other times it's like straight up flute, and then other times it sounds almost like a trumpet, and I was like, does he have a horn section, or does he have like 10 horns? How does he do that? And so now I'm hearing about the EWI, I'm like, oh man, this is so cool.
But actually, the horns, I think if I can remember, it's like there's a song called "Spark of Tao," T-A-W. Tao. How do you spell it? T-A-O. Like the Tao. But that is guitar synth on Chapman stick. Got a little horn section in there. So, and what's cool about that is that, I mean, you can do this with, various effects with the EWI, but, you can hit a chord and have, 3 horns playing at the same time with a guitar synthesizer on your Chapman stick. That's
right. Man, I would love to go through, like, track by track and like, talk to you about it. I mean, that'll be for another time. But, I know that we can't get it. I think we can't get the physical copy, and I know that you do have other albums that are up on iTunes.
No, there's only that. It's the only one that's on iTunes. I'm a little bit disenchanted with the whole music marketing thing, but I probably have. I don't know. I mean, I could have a bunch of albums if I want to work on. I'm just too busy. But I am working on it. I am inspired. It is going forward, and I'll try to put up something for my new album on SoundCloud in the near future.
That'd be cool. I'd love to hear it. And I think that I'm trying to think. But there wasn't another album that's on iTunes that Going Up Dragon Mountain is.
That's the JRJ thing. It's some girl. I contacted her. If you listen to the songs on that, that's not me. Obviously, she's like a folk singer-songwriter, but she's good in kind of a weird way. I kind of liked her stuff. It's not real commercial, but she's got the octopus. The octopus is not me.
Okay.
So I'm with the big eye looking at you, which is Eye of Providence looking back at those guys.
Gotcha. Now you do the art as well. You're a visual artist as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, I started to draw, before I ever was, at all serious about music. Music didn't happen until I was 13 or 14, so I was drawing long before that. And I don't know, I could draw, I could paint, I could play, I could do all that stuff. But the problem was people saying, you should do it like this. And I didn't want to listen. Right. Not listening is where, I don't know, I gain a lot of my individual creativity I think there's a thing in the margins that this is what you're supposed to do. It's like, okay, if you say that, I'm gonna check this out, this other thing about what you're not supposed to do to see if I'm missing something that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that kind of goes in hand with like, I didn't take lessons, I didn't need lessons. I might not be making music for the same reason that you are, right? And like, that's totally okay. And I think that a lot of times people come to the Chapman Stick because it's something new, it's something different. It's their second instrument, it's their third instrument, it's their fourth instrument, Well,
but I love where Emmett says, it's a clean slate. And he even has an exercise in freehands that has to do with just play it however you do. I have a song for that called The Abstract Chef, which is just you can't make a mistake when you play that song.
Nice. Well, I wanted to ask Dan or Boaz if there's anything that you guys wanted to ask JRJ before we kind of wrap up.
Well, one thing I want to say is that I don't agree with your rationale that you should just show your hands. I think you're a perfectly, a very interesting subject to show on video. I think it would be great to see more videos with you, featuring you, and I think that would be part of the whole experience.
That's 2 thumbs up from 2 Chapman. So,
yeah,
because Emmett said basically the same thing. The reason why I am doing it that way is to get past the idea of the ego, because I kept making a film and then screwing up the playing because I was worried about how I looked. So I just want to play, and then I'll bring the person into it, or get a better stage setting. It's a lot to make. I mean, making film is an immense artwork, an immense artistic challenge.
All I can say is don't worry about the way you look.
Okay.
Yeah, right? Play music.
Boaz, you got time stick player?
What'd you say?
Are you a full-time stick player? Is this what you do?
No, I'm a full-time generalist. I have a lot of different things that I'm doing, but I live up in the mountains, and I essentially have a farm or a homestead that I take care of, and it takes a lot of energy. And I rent some houses up here and do landscaping, and all the dirty work has to get done. So yeah, I'm full-time interested in my head, but I don't, I'm not, making money like, doing the stick or anything else. Yeah. And I don't know if that, it's another thing that if you're like a stickist and you want to get a stick and you think, okay, I'm going to get this new musical instrument and then I'm going to make money and be famous, I think you should recalibrate your intentions and find out what's really going on with the stick, which, even though Emmett disagrees, I think it's totally a spiritual thing.
Yeah. Well, Emmett doesn't make money playing the stick either.
Well,
but he sells them, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's not a performing, he doesn't make money as a performing artist, is all I say.
He just sells sticks to feed his addiction.
Yeah.
There is I mean, come on. If Emmett just said, "Okay, I'm going to build this instrument. Look at me," and then play it for the rest of his life, I mean, we would probably all love him, but we would be saying, "Hey, can you build me one?" Right. So
yeah.
I know that he, Emmett said, "You know what? I mean, if it was me, I would say I'm just going to play." But Emmett said, because I couldn't build one. I don't think I could build a very good one. But Emmett said, I could do that. And I don't know, I think that's the thing about each person's life is they have a thing they can do that nobody else can do. And, other people have tried, but there's nothing quite like the Chapman stick. And the only reason that other people tried is because they thought, wow, this is such a good idea. I'm going to take this idea for myself. And Emmett did it because he loved it. And I think that's why there's this family and this good energy, and it just keeps going on and on and on. Yeah, so that's Emmett's. If I could just are we going to have to finish up here?
We do have to kind of wrap up, yeah.
Okay, they were talking about genius. I can't remember who the guy was. Moore. Anyway, he was saying that genius in the West is misunderstood because genius is thought to be something that only a very few. Albert Einstein and Mozart and Frank Zappa, those guys are the geniuses. But in the original understanding of genius, it was something that everybody had. It's just a matter of if you discover it inside yourself and manifest it or not. So it's not like it's a special gift. It's something that everybody has, and if you follow the track of your life, the path of your life, you will find that. So, we're all working on that, but I think that Emmett, he's done it. He's, on that mountain, and we all respect him for that. And I don't know, I love that. It's an inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, along the same line that you were talking about, I quoted him, I caught him in the workshop at a reflective moment. I couldn't get him. He wanted to make a recording of the stick and do a video, and we had all these plans. He kept telling me, well, I can't do it now, and I called him a month later, and he says, well, I can't do it now. My hands are all gnarly because I've been making sticks for so long. And so I said, well, let's just shoot it in your workshop, and I'll shoot you, making the sticks. That's your performance. And at that time, I got him doing the fret dressings, and I caught him with a really good quote. He said, we all come in layers. We have our deficiencies and our gifts. What do you want to do in your life? And he was talking to me. He said, make up for your deficiencies, make everything equal, or do you want to exploit your gifts? The gifts that you have are for others, and then you benefit from them. And I always remember that, and I wrote that in my my ChapDoc website, and it's in the movie.
Well, you see the movie and you see Emmett. He's just sitting there. It's like he's by himself and he's sanding, and it's like you go, oh man, I don't want to send Emmett my stick because he's going to do it. I think that what your story indicates is that on the level of the body and the stick, at this mundane thing that he's doing. The mind and the spirit is really activated. So working on the instruments gives him the opportunity to expand in other, areas of his consciousness.
It's a physical activity. It's like his exercise, and it's like being completely motivated for something. The thing that energizes people is when you have a mission, and that's his mission. People without a mission feel aimless. And they don't feel like, I mean, look at like the bees. When they're on a mission to take care of the queen bee, and that's it. They wake up and that's what they want to do. So when you have a mission like that, it makes your life complete, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And the kind of the way that I equate that, certainly when I was doing the Song of the Week stuff, is play songs you like. Play songs that mean something, and like as the way I kind of relate to that personally, and we should ask Boaz how he kind of relates to this as well, is that I went back to a lot of songs in my childhood. Isn't She Lovely? Like is one of them. Carrie by Joni Mitchell, which is a song that was like coming on, like Mom was making dinner or something like that, and I just remember hearing that song, and that for me it was like, I only really want to play songs that are meaningful to me, because I'm like not that great of a writer. So but I can learn the heck out of a song, and I can understand what makes it tick, and and it's fun arranging for the stick. So
those are great songs.
Can't go wrong with the '70s, right? So now, Boaz, what kind of music are you passionate about?
Well, I'm really into heavy metal, but ever since I got into Chapman Stick, it opened mind of other music genre.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nowadays, ever since I listened to a non-metal song, and try Chapman Stick variation on this one.
Oh yeah.
I find it kind of hard to bring heavy metal song on stick. I never saw it. It doesn't really work on that kind of music.
Different.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the big crunchy chords because you can't really like with heavy metal. You've got like 3 octaves of like E or even right like and then and the fifths and it's just like you can and with the Chapman stick it's more like it's
More
I kind of
piano,
equate
like-
it to like a lightsaber. Like it's like you got to be really careful with it. It's like very like you have to. It takes less energy but more precise motions, right? Like so it's less like this
Yeah.
visceral,
Takes-
emotional release. Yeah, it's constructed.
Takes you more to the classic and piano-like playing.
So are there metal stick players? I don't know. I'm not a metal guy, but
There's this guy, what's his name? He's trying.
Dr. Froth.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dr. Froth, yeah. So he's an NS player, and he plays in 6 Minutes to Armageddon, I think, is the name of the band. And is that it? Oh, I'm embarrassed now that I don't know that because we've had him on before as part of our NS thing, but he does rad stuff as well. And he fills the role as a bassist, and he's like a poster child for what the NS can do. And he plays it clean. I don't even know if he uses any effects. I don't even know if he uses like a compression or reverb. I mean, he goes through a big amp. But his band is definitely considered metal.
how about Nick Beggs? No, he's not metal, is he?
Yeah, I mean, like
Pretty.
he does probably some hard rock stuff.
Yeah.
Nick Beggs is a pop player.
Pop rock.
Pop rock. I mean, he's really, really good, but
Yeah.
he's, it's pop. I mean, he's famous
Yeah.
for playing in, I don't know, what is it called? Pele Juju or whatever it is?
Well, he
Gaga
played,
Juju. Gaga Juju.
yeah, and he played with Steven Wilson, and he's got some more stuff coming up. But hey, we're at time. I think we've been going for like almost an hour and a half.
Time out.
So I suppose if it's okay, I want to wrap it up so that people who are watching it, like if you get into like more than an hour, right, like people tend to kind of drop off. But I suppose Boaz, I want to thank you for as always for making it out and just being such a wonderful person. And one of these days, I am going to do. I think we need to do a song learn. We need to get back to the song learning sessions because those are really fun. And Kevin C was a great guy to have on to show songs. And Dan, thank you so much for being part of the conversation and sharing all that insight about Emmett. As always, it's just like it adds so much depth to our sessions. And I know that when people watch it back, there's just so much more in that for them getting your perspective.
Thank you.
And JRJ, I especially want to thank you so much for making time for us. And it's kind of like a dream come true to just kind of hear about like where your thoughts on the Chapman stick and just kind of reconnect.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I mean, I've always been really reluctant because I think, oh, I'm going to get this more together, and then I never get it together. So I'm using this as the segue in to maybe participate on the forum. And, I play a lot. That's not the problem. The problem is wanting to interact. So, yeah, this was fun.
Do it for us. We're your stick friends. We want to hear you play, man.
I don't like to say it like a family. I like to think of it as a tribe.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Right on. Because my family's, right? We all have our own kind of family stories, right? Let's leave them out of it. It's already so complicated. But thank you very much for making time today. I'll post it up. We'll make it public, and probably I'll do a little announcement on the Stickus just as soon as I get a little lunch. And then we'll see what people have to say, and we'll throw out the little bits about Stephen LeBeau and Mike Kemp and all our friends down in Australia, the proper approach for the Tim Tam, and all the things that aren't related to JRJ that kind of come along with all the delicious tangents that stick players love to get into.
Right. It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. Great. Well, thanks again, you guys. I hope that you guys have a great Friday, great weekend. We will see you next time.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Free Hands Friday.
Bye.